Welcome back to Defluence Podcast. I'm Unkle Bonehead, and with me, as always, is the distinguished Mr.
Alan Taylor. Wow, distinguished man. Building
Well,
me up.
yeah, gotta throw that out there, being the best-selling author and all that. So,
Yeah. Well, I think maybe you spelled it wrong. I think you meant extinguished. Extinguished. The extinguished Alan Taylor.
extinguished. That's cool. Well, some bad news, kind of bad news, has come down the pike there in your, what are you calling it now? Web3 writings
Yeah,
instead of
I'm kind of changing
cryptocracy.
up the way I do my newsletter. So I've got 4 different communities. I've combined my newsletters into one, and they're 4 different communities. And so different days of the week, I'm writing to a different audience on the same platform. It's all on Paragraph. And so the Web3 part, I'm calling Web3 writings. I've sort of moved away from using Cryptocracy as the brand, and I'm really trying to think about what the overarching brand name should be for all of these communities. I haven't figured it out yet.
I still like the tailored content. That's just me, my opinion.
Yeah, that's my business name. That's what I do my freelance writing under. And
Oh,
so I
okay.
just kind of used that as the name of the newsletter until I figure something else out.
It works.
Still working on it. Yeah, thank you.
So this bad news that I was talking about is it seems that not just certain cryptos exchanges are under attack by the SEC. It's starting to look like they're after everybody.
Yeah, I kind of figured this was coming down. Just in the last couple of days, on Wednesday, the SEC filed a suit against Binance, the largest crypto exchange in the world, um, in the district court in DC. And then on Thursday, yesterday, they filed against Coinbase in the Southern District of New York. So 2 different courts, 2 different lawsuits, 2 different exchanges, but the charges against them are the same. The violations are very similar with a few minor differences, but more or less they're accusing both of these exchanges of selling unregistered securities.
I don't mean to be laughing. I just love the way they randomly come up with names on stuff that's not even covered by the law that I know of. Did
Yeah,
they
there's
did
some
they
really there's it depends on how you define um, cryptocurrencies, and there are a lot of different use cases for cryptocurrencies. Some of them could be considered securities, depending on how they're set up, how they're established, how they're used. I think some of them could very clearly fall under that category, and then some of them are so far off it kind of makes you scratch your head, just thinking about why anyone would consider that a security. Um, with regard to the exchanges, Binance has its own cryptocurrency, but Coinbase does not. So, you know, there's a little bit of a difference there, but the allegations against both, they break them down into really 3 categories. Um, the exchange category, the broker category, and the clearinghouse category. So they're accusing both exchanges of operating in all 3 of those categories, and all 3 of those categories are required to be licensed under securities laws. So the question for the court to answer is, are the cryptocurrencies that are being sold on these exchanges securities? Do they fall into the securities bucket? And if so, then these exchanges are guilty. And I think what's going to happen after everything is said and done, all the arguments are made, we get into the courtroom, and assuming that the two exchanges don't settle before there's a judgment, which I don't think Coinbase is going to do. Probably what's going to happen is the judge is going to determine some of those cryptocurrencies are securities and some are not. So we're probably going to get a mixed judgment. That's just my early feeling. I haven't heard any of the arguments yet, but that's kind of what I figure is going to happen at this stage.
In your opinion, what would determine whether one is a security or not?
Yeah, good question. It really depends on what the purpose of the cryptocurrency is and how it is being used. And so what happens, and don't take this as legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, but
Me neither.
I am a journalist, and I look at things from a journalistic point of view. And by the way, I have been I have been awarded by a big city metropolis lawyers association 3 different times for reporting on legal issues. So I have
Nice.
some insight into how the law works. What happens with the security is basically what it is. It's defined as the sale of an asset that represents ownership in something else. So when companies issue stock, for instance, and you go buy stock in, say, Apple or Microsoft or whatever, those are securities because they represent ownership in something else, and you expect a profit from buying that asset on the basis of somebody else's actions or behavior. So what does that mean? So you buy stock in Apple or Microsoft or some other company, you expect to profit. You expect your investment to increase based on how that company manages itself, right? The CEO, the CFO, all the players that work for that company, how they manage the operations. Cryptocurrencies don't act that way all the time. There are some clear cases when they do. For instance, a few years ago, and the SEC was right, I think, in doing this, they went after these companies, these crypto firms that were issuing ICOs, initial coin offerings. You may have heard about this.
Yeah.
Essentially what they were doing was selling cryptocurrencies to finance the startup of their companies. That is what traditional companies do when they issue stock. They're issuing stock so that they can sell ownership of the company and raise funds for their startup operations. And the difference was in a lot of those ICO cases, they weren't selling ownership of the company, but they were definitely selling interest in the company's success. And if the company did succeed, then the ICO holders, the coin token holders that bought into the ICO, would profit from that. That, to me, is very close to what a security is. So I could understand the SEC's point on ICOs.
That does make sense
I
to
don't
me too.
I don't understand it in some of the other use cases.
Now, what kind of effect could this have throughout the Web3 community?
Yeah, great question. So here's the deal. Some of these cryptocurrencies that the SEC is calling securities include currencies like ADA, which is Cardano, Solana. Um, they've gone after XRP, although we don't have a decision on XRP yet. They're calling Decentraland, Axis Infinity, and the Sandbox all securities.
Oh,
And so if those are securities, then a lot of Web3 platforms that have their own cryptocurrencies, like Hive, could be in danger as well.
not good. So what could be realistically what like for the hundreds of thousands of people who use like Hive as a social media platform and don't pay any attention to the actual currency part of it, what would that do?
Yeah.
Would it end Hive and all
Well,
the front ends?
yeah, that's a great question. I think probably where Hive might be um, flirting with danger is whether or not the court decides that staking, the process of staking, is itself a security. That's one of the allegations against Coinbase. Is Coinbase offers staking products. They allow their customers, their clients, to come in and stake Ethereum and a few other cryptocurrencies like Tezos and some others. And so they have staking operations, and the SEC is calling that a security.
Yeah.
So the question is that a security, and will the court agree that that is a security? And if the court does agree that staking operations is a security, that could impact Hive. Where Hive is different is Hive is decentralized. Coinbase is a centralized operation. It's an exchange,
Right.
and frankly, I think these crypto exchanges have kind of brought this on themselves because they call themselves exchanges. you know,
Yeah, I could see
they
that.
operate. Yeah, they operate similarly to stock exchanges, but the product that they're selling isn't stock, and so cryptocurrencies have this flexibility about them where they can act one way in one situation, act another way in another situation. And that's what makes it difficult to classify them.
So Hive as a protocol would probably be okay.
Yes, I would say as a protocol, um, Hive is safe. I mean, it's like HTTP, or SMTP, or any other protocol. Nobody owns it. Nobody controls it. It's there. Anybody can build on top of it. Utilize it to do whatever you think can be done. The exchange, the Hive engine exchange, is decentralized. Nobody owns that. Who are they going to? If the SEC decided to go after Hive, who would they sue? The
Right.
whole community, everybody, you and me.
Don't put
Oh,
it past them.
I mean, they could. They very well could. They
It's
have gone after DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Um, the problem here is not really so much that the SEC is targeting crypto firms. The problem is we have a legislative body that has been very slow to implement any ground rules. And in spite of some of these firms like Coinbase asking for clear guidance,
that could be
there
on
has been
purpose.
none. Yeah, there has been none. Yeah, I think Coinbase actually has a legitimate point, and they've made this statement publicly. Brian Armstrong, the CEO, has publicly stated, "Look, we have asked for guidance. We have asked the SEC to tell us what the clear rules of the road are. And if they can prove that in the courtroom, that they have asked for guidance, that is going to go in their favor, I think.
Oh, they all they got to do is go back and listen to DeFluis podcast because we covered that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Sure did. And
The proof is out there.
that's yeah. This I think Coinbase is playing a good game. I think their long term they plan on fighting it all the way to the Supreme Court, which I hope they do, because with the current court leaning somewhat conservative at this point, pro business, pro freedom. Not to say that they're perfect. No. There's some other things they may be a little sketchy on, but I think the current court would probably be more favorable toward Coinbase's arguments than not. That's just my feeling. But we're talking about 9 justices, 9 people. Probably 5 of them would empathize with at least a few of Coinbase's arguments.
Yep. Holy
Binance
cow.
is a different story. Binance has kind of played this game where they don't want to be regulated. They've made that very clear. They have evaded regulation in several countries, going so far as to change their headquarters in several different times in order to avoid being regulated. They set up a Binance.us operation so that they could supposedly be in compliance with U.S. law, while continuing to run Binance.com in a different way. But the SEC's allegation is that Binance.us is nothing more than a puppet organization for Binance.com, and that the actual operations are being run by its CEO and Binance.com. It's not an independent organization. And if that's the case, if they can prove that in court, then I think Binance has an uphill climb.
Yeah, didn't they just shut down that Binance.us not too long ago?
They didn't shut it down,
I thought I
but
saw
they did.
something about that. Ceased operations in the U.S.
Yeah, they did. They did cease operations for a while, for a short time. I think they've. I have to look into it again. I thought they restarted, but they did. They did cease withdrawals for a while, but I think they started those back up.
So how long do you think this is going to take?
Oh, at least a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4. Depends on how far they go with it. And you can bet, no matter which party wins in the initial judgment, we're talking. It could be 2-3 years before we get an initial judgment at the lower court. And Coinbase has already said they'll fight it all the way to the Supreme Court. So then you got the appeals court. If they lose in the Southern District of New York, they have an appeals court, and then that could take another couple of years. Who knows, or at least a year. Then you go beyond that. If they lose there, if they go all the way to the Supreme Court, we're talking it could be 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road. So this is going to be a long, drawn out process.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah. I expect this to last a while. So meanwhile, what do we do while this is playing out in the courts? What should the rest of us do?
I'm just going to carry on.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I think that's a wise choice. I'm not going to change anything that I'm doing. Um, I'm really looking forward to hearing any day now the verdict on XRP, because I think if XRP wins, and there's probably a better than even chance that it could, then that could be the spark that leads to the next bull run. And
Cool.
so, yeah, what happens is usually about every 4 years, right around the time of Bitcoin's halvings, the market goes up, explodes, and goes beyond where it was at the last high. We're almost to that point now. So mid 24 is when the next halving is supposed to take place. So any time, I think, between now and then, we could start to see the market going up. And I think XRP, a judgment on that, could be the spark that makes that happen. Meanwhile, as that's taking place, as the market is adjusting, we're going to be watching Coinbase and Binance to see how those cases are going. We may not get a final judgment on those until the next bull run, until the next halving.
Wow.
Or even after. I mean, we're talking about years here. And both of these companies have the funds to fight this long term. They have the financial mojo. A lot of companies, smaller exchanges may not, but these two companies certainly do.
Awesome. Take them to the mat.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to watching this. I plan on reporting on these um, two cases pretty extensively. I'll keep my eye on these cases, letting people know how they develop, and I'm looking at probably going direct instead of just relying on what's reported in the top periodicals. Actually, getting my information directly from the courts,
Nice.
and doing the reporting independently. So if I do that, I will likely be looking for some kind of support from readers or advertisers, sponsors, or something to help me, fund the time that it takes to
Oh
to
yeah.
do that kind of reporting. It takes time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm pushing that through my brain right now, figuring out how that's going to look.
Cool. We'll stick the two PDFs in there from the SEC.gov website. One, the Coinbase is 101 pages. The other one is the Binance is 136 pages. So y'all break out your favorite adult beverage and some popcorn because it's going to be a good read.
Yeah, good point. And if somebody's got questions about some of the terminology in these briefs, feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to kind of break it down. Um, it's fairly easy reading, but it's dry and boring reading. And sometimes with legal documents like this, terms don't necessarily mean what you think they mean. So there's a legal definition for certain things. And so if you have any questions about that, feel free to shoot them over to me. I'll be happy to see what I can get out of it myself. I've read enough of these that I know sometimes um, lawyers don't write in plain English.
That's just too easy.
Yeah. So, anyways, I've read enough of these legal briefs that I can help kind of translate some of the legalese.
Cool. See, did we want to cover anything else?
I
Or
think
you
that's
think
enough
that's
for
enough?
today.
That's
Um,
that's a
yeah,
good slap in the face.
I'm going to break these down. I haven't read through all 230 something pages, but I've skimmed over parts of them. I'm going to take some time to go through these with a fine tooth comb and kind of break into these for my paragraph newsletter. So if you're a subscriber to tailored content at paragraph.xyz, feel free to if you're not a subscriber, feel free to subscribe, and if you are, keep an eye on these stories because I'll be doing some reporting on this.
Awesome. That's pretty much. I don't really have anything. I was working all day today. It's,
All right. Well, that's enough news right there
yeah,
to fill uh, several coffers, and so um, you know, one cool thing I'll mention this that happened is Ethereum is getting another NFT protocol. That's in
really.
yeah, that's in today's um, newsletter, and it is ERC 6551, and I think this is really cool. ERC 721s can now have their own smart contract account, which means you can have an NFT inside of an NFT.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, check out today's issue of Web3 Writings at tailored content paragraph.xyz / at tailored content. It's called "The SEC Wants to Quash the Advance of Crypto." There's several links there about today's SEC filings against Binance and Coinbase, and then there's a breakdown of ERC's 6551, which is, I think, a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. I'm gonna have to go check that out. So, y'all be good. Be safe. Oh, well, contact us at podcast at thefluence.online. Follow us on Hive and Paragraph and all the other socials. Get us wherever free podcasts are sold. And we'll talk with you guys again next time. Be good, be safe, and never let your fingers, never stick your finger where you wouldn't stick your face. There we go.
Ooh.
Man, I can't
You're
talk
getting
today.
rusty.
Yeah.